You've seen the shocking video of a Cessna colliding with a paraglider over the Austrian Alps, but what if I told you the true story behind this incident reveals a critical flaw in air safety that could affect us all? Most of what you're about to hear hasn't made it into the English language yet, so let's dive into the details. First, a quick recap for anyone who missed the original story. On May 23, 2024, around 1:15 in the afternoon, clear skies graced Pissendorf, Austria, a village approximately 8 kilometers from Zell am See in the Salzburg region. A Cessna 182 Skylane, registration OEKAF, operated by Alpenflug LLC, was conducting a sightseeing flight. The pilot, a 28-year-old from Tyrol, had departed Zell am See airport and was returning after a loop through the Glental Valley. Simultaneously, a 44-year-old paraglider from Upper Austria, identified in local media as Sabrina, who also shared the video herself, had launched from the Schmittenhohe, one of the Alps' most renowned paragliding sites. She was flying her standard route towards Pissendorf. Alpine police confirmed she was flying straight when the Cessna approached from behind, making contact with her canopy. The paraglider was instantly destroyed, throwing Sabrina into a violent, uncontrolled spin, free-falling towards the ground. She managed to deploy her reserve parachute and landed on a nearby forest road. Miraculously, she survived with only light injuries. The Cessna continued to the airport and landed with paraglider material still tangled around the aircraft, sustaining minor damage. Both pilots survived the incident. Most people, when they hear paraglider, picture a skydiver. However, they are not the same thing at all, and this distinction is enormously important to this story. A paraglider is a full aircraft. It is lightweight, has no rigid structure, and no engine. The pilot launches by running down a hillside, no plane is required. The wing above them is not a parachute in the traditional sense, it is an airfoil. It generates lift the same way an airplane wing does. Skilled paraglider pilots can fly dozens, even hundreds of kilometers, by utilizing thermals and ridge lift. This is sustained flight, not merely a descent device. The equipment consists of a wing or canopy, a harness, a reserve parachute, a helmet, and a variometer, an instrument that measures altitude and ascent/descent rates. The harness is designed like an armchair, with the pilot sitting in it, feet hanging, controlling the wing with toggles. Here's why Sabrina's survival was truly remarkable. Every paraglider carries a reserve parachute, but deploying it is not as simple as pulling a ripcord in skydiving. It's an 8-step mechanical process. The hands must come off the controls, you must locate the handle, grip it, break the fastener, pull the handle away from the harness, extract the bag, throw it clear of the body, and then release. All of this must be done while in an uncontrolled spin, with your main wing destroyed, and the absolute fear that you are falling and moments away from crashing into the ground. There's another critical difference. In skydiving, if your main parachute malfunctions, you cut it away before deploying your reserve. This ensures clean air above you, providing altitude and time. A paragliding pilot does not have that option. The destroyed main canopy remains above you, tangled and unpredictable, while you execute that complex 8-step process. Sabrina completed it and landed, which I find truly extraordinary. Before delving into the new developments, I want to address some sloppy reporting on this story in the English-language aviation press, including on Final Descent. I released a quick video immediately after the incident and got some facts wrong, which I promptly pulled down because accuracy is paramount. However, at least one prominent outlet reported 2 days after the fact that both the paraglider and the pilot sustained serious injuries, which is incorrect. The accurate information has been available in Austrian police statements since May 24, a day before this outlet published its story. Furthermore, they still incorrectly report the plane as a Cessna 172, not a 182. Salzburg police confirmed through the Austrian public broadcaster ORF Salzburg that Sabrina sustained only minor injuries, specifically bruises and contusions, and she sought her own medical treatment. The Cessna pilot reported no injuries, and the plane's registration clearly identifies it as a 182 model. These are not minor corrections. When injury severity is misreported in an aviation incident, it significantly impacts how the story is understood and subsequently covered. I believe this point is worth discussing. Now, for the new developments. On Monday, May 26, 3 days after the collision, Salzburg State Police filed a criminal complaint against the Cessna pilot. The charge is negligent bodily harm under Austrian law. This is a criminal charge referral, not a conviction, a finding of fault, or a cause determination. Under the Austrian system, the police file the complaint, which then goes to the public prosecutor's office. The prosecutor will decide whether to pursue it, meaning the legal process is just beginning. If found guilty, typical consequences might include a fine or a suspended sentence. Jail time is rare, especially for a first-time offender. Salzburg police also confirmed that Sabrina has already been interviewed, while the Cessna pilot and several witnesses still need to be interviewed. The investigation is active. The incident was also formally reported to Austrocontrol, Austria's civil aviation authority, similar to the FAA. This is standard procedure following an airspace incident of this nature. Austrocontrol's involvement follows a separate track from the criminal investigation. Here's another significant development. Austria has a Federal Safety Investigation Authority, whose initials are SUB, equivalent to the NTSB in the US. Their role is to investigate aviation accidents and incidents to determine what happened, not to assign blame, but to uncover facts that can prevent future accidents. According to the Salzburger Nachrichten, a major Austrian newspaper, the SUB will not be investigating this incident. The SUB's decision not to investigate means there will be no formal, independent, safety-focused analysis of this collision. The only official proceeding is the criminal one. Criminal investigations, by their nature, are not designed to produce the kind of systemic safety findings that prevent future accidents. They are designed to determine legal responsibility for the current accident. No explanation was provided in available sources for why the SUB declined to investigate. I don't know why they made that decision. What I do know is that it matters because, without a safety investigation, the structural questions this collision raises may not receive a formal answer. This brings me to those structural questions, because the most clarifying insight I found in the Austrian coverage was a statement from someone who understands this specific airspace intimately. Florian Schutz, the airport manager at Zell MC, stated on the record to ORF Salzburg, "We are not an airport like Salzburg, for example. We do not have closed or clearance-required airspace here around Zell MC. It is completely free airspace. Nothing is restricted. Everyone is entitled to use this airspace equally." This means both pilots were operating in legal airspace. The Cessna was on a legal sightseeing flight, and Sabrina was on a legal paragliding route. Neither was required to have a transponder, nor were they required to be in radio contact. No one in towers or air traffic control knew both of them were there simultaneously. In Austria, and in much of the world, this type of airspace is governed by a single rule: see and avoid. You look outside the aircraft, you find other traffic, and you avoid it. That's the complete system. Generally, the right-of-way goes to the slower-moving aircraft. For instance, a hot air balloon would have the right-of-way over almost anything. In this case, the paraglider would have had the right-of-way over the faster Cessna. Here lies the structural problem. The Cessna approached Sabrina from behind, from her 6 o'clock position. A paraglider, when seen edge-on against a mountain backdrop, is nearly invisible. It has a thin nylon wing, offers no contrast, and typically has no significant altitude difference to make it stand out against the terrain. From Sabrina's position, with no radar, no transponder, and no ADSB out, wind noise can mask the sound of an approaching engine. If something is coming from behind at cruise speed, you may not know it's there until it has already arrived. The Schmittenhof to Pissendorf route that Sabrina was flying is a standard local flight path for paragliders. However, it also runs directly into the approach corridor for Zell MC Airport. The local Icarus Pinzgau Paragliding Club, which governs flying in this area, explicitly warns its pilots that they share this airspace with gliders, helicopters, and powered aircraft, advising them to respect time windows and nearby restricted zones. Sabrina was not in a restricted zone, she was in legal airspace, as was the Cessna. Yet, the Cessna failed to see and avoid, and they collided. Electronic technology exists that could make a paraglider visible to an approaching aircraft's avionics. Small, lightweight devices that broadcast position are not theoretical, they are on the market today. However, they are not currently required under European or FAA regulations for paraglider use, and most paraglider pilots do not carry them. I've covered a version of this problem before. In the LaGuardia runway collision involving Air Canada Flight 8646, fire trucks without transponders were invisible to the same surface detection technology designed to prevent exactly what happened. It was a different scenario, but the same structural gap, two things in the same place, one of them invisible to systems that might have intervened. The criminal complaint against the Cessna pilot may ultimately lead to prosecution for a misdemeanor, or it may not, the prosecutor has to make that call. But neither outcome answers the question the airport manager put on the record: around Zell MC, it's a completely free airspace. Nothing is restricted. Everyone is entitled to use it equally. The question that statement raises, and that only a safety investigation could formally answer, is whether equally entitled to the airspace is truly enough when one aircraft is electronically invisible to the other. My takeaway is to remain vigilant, to use technology to assist in situation awareness, but always to verify with my own eyes. I recently had an extremely close call while flying my Cessna 210. I was approaching my home airport, a small Class G airfield under the Bravo shelf for the Dallas-Fort Worth area, inside what is called the Mode C Veil. This means any aircraft operating there must have a transponder. As I approached my airport, I entered the pattern, making the standard callouts on the Common Traffic Advisory frequency. I checked my ADSB, no traffic was showing in or around the airport. I still made my calls and flew a standard pattern. As I was turning base to final, I made that call and looked visually to clear the final approach path. There, probably less than 30 meters away, was a Cessna 150 barreling down on me. I immediately banked hard right and did a 360-degree turn. This pilot had no transponder and no radio. I spoke with him after we had both landed, and I learned that he had had his plane in the shop to fix the alternator but decided to go flying anyway, building time, before the repair was complete, which drained his battery. He told me he was concerned his engine would then quit. If you're building time for the airlines, you need to understand your systems. Dying electronics have nothing to do with your engine. Regardless, it's critical not to let technology become a crutch, because sometimes technology fails. You must rely on your analog Mark I eyeballs. Keep your head on a swivel. That's my report. We will cover whatever the Austrian authorities release, and if the SUB changes course and decides to investigate, I'll report that too. You can also check out our report on the LaGuardia collision. Thanks for watching, and remember, superior judgment trumps superior skill. Take care.